I personally think our generation is the last generation that understood what people before us fought for. And we were raised around generations that, survived World War II and the depressions and all those things and fought for what we were able to achieve as young women between education, ownership to our names, bank accounts, ownership of homes, having careers, being able to have it all. I don't call feminism feminism. I never have. And I was raised in a household of a woman that fought for civil rights, women's rights, voting rights, interracial rights, all those things. I call it, and I call myself, what I refer to as a modern traditionalist. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 18, Part 2, with my dear friend Marie Zelenka, who interviews me actually over the subject of fear and my cancer journey. Maria was really interested in asking me a bunch of questions that she thought would be really informative, and so we sat down for what ended up being 3.5 hours. So this is part 2, so pull up that chair and grab that cannoli, because here we go with part 2 of our continued conversation with my dear friend Marie Zelenka.
So you have not gone to shave it all down. You held on to the fuzz. What is that about? What's that about?
That's a great question, because even like this, what is that all about?
What's that about?
It's a great goddamn question. It was funny because even this part was longer and I did cut it. Like, it was like, and it's funny because when I have the hat on, these pieces are like, it's almost like a little orthodox. Like, there's times when there's these like little curly like things going on. I'm like, and people will be like, no, you have hair. And I'll be, and not knowing I've been through cancer, no, you got hair. And then I'll pull up the hat and they're like, oh shit. Oh, no, you don't. And I'm like, yeah, no. But, it's interesting because even last night I saw this television show, I started to see the first like 3 minutes of the show, and it was boom about this guy being diagnosed with cancer. And I went, yeah, no, I can't listen to this. I want nothing to do with this. And then ironically, I was, the hour had passed, and I again must have caught the last 3 minutes of the show, and he's gone through chemo and he's got the hat on. And I was like, there's the look. There's the look.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's a look, and it's a look that I don't know with my hats on how much I've had that look or not, and it doesn't matter. I'm not concerned about that. And it's interesting because Louisa did send me a beautiful wig. She was like, look, whether you wear it or not, it's for you to do with whatever you want. It's a full-on beautiful front lace wig, never been touched, never been shaped. Cut the lace, cut the hair, dye it to it, whatever you want. It's variegated in color with the blonde and the darkness underneath, all the things. And I even immediately put it on and put a hat on, and I took a photograph, and I did like a before and after, including this. And it was like, it was a quick shift of like what can be. The irony is I have never worn it. I find it very interesting that not only did I not wear it, but there was even like a memorial for Randy's partner. And I said, maybe I should wear the wig. And he was like, no, you don't need to wear the wig. Like, you're fine. I didn't show up without a hat on. Here's the reason why I wear a hat, by the way. Most of the time, my head is either extremely cold and my neck.
Yeah.
So like it just needs to be bundled up, or my head gets really hot. And not where it's like dripping in sweat, but you put your hand to my head and it's like the amount of heat it's emanating is just, or emitting, is
Mm,
just like, whoa. And so it's fascinating because with all my hair, I never really noticed one way or another because I didn't wear a lot of hats, but in the winter, my neck and my head does need to be covered up. So
yeah,
that definitely is a delicate, and obviously we emit like at least 40% of our heat out of our head anyhow. But my team said, no, wear hats and have your neck wrapped up to protect yourself just because
yeah.
of being cold and staying safe and but I do remember, and you and I discussed this in one of our last discussions. I do remember making the conscious decision that I wanted to make sure that I showed up every day as if, meaning I got up, I made
Mhm.
effort, I put myself together so I could feel the best I could feel. And I don't care if I wore, my athleisure brand or whatever, but I can still be presentable. And that I would physically put my face through a transformation that looked like I had no makeup on, but that made me look like myself.
Right.
And that is exactly who sits before you. And it's extremely subtle. I'd like to think that this is part of what I do for many leading actresses, and that it's a way that, makes for the art of making art and masterful transformation. Um, and what that means for me personally means that no, I scrapped the lashes, never wore a pair of lashes because that felt too inauthentic, as I said earlier. But I definitely lost eyebrows, like not completely, but there, my hair. So getting back to the fuzz or whatever,
Mhm.
why I didn't shave it, I just didn't feel a need. I just didn't feel a need. And I probably brushed this hair more than I ever brushed my whole head hair. And not like, oh, oh, like not massaging it. But
Mhm.
but um, but it's interesting. Like I'll look at the color of my hair, and it's exactly the color that it was since I was a little girl, which is like a level 7, I'll call it, which is like an ash blonde brown.
Okay.
And and how it fell out is exactly, and it no more has fallen out since all the treatments have happened.
Right.
Interesting. So that was
Yeah.
part of my, I think, choosing not to shave it down because I was really
And
curious how that was going to be affected.
what about the arms, the legs, the pubes, the chest hair?
Uh,
No.
yeah, no, so that's a great question. No, it's a great question. First off, they shaved my pubes when they put me through the hysterectomy.
Right. Hysteria.
So I was hysterical, and and
What a word.
and
I mean, this happened, I believe, in, oh, I don't even know. Was it the late 1800s or the early 1900s where it was believed that women in menopause were hysterical? Hormones are everywhere. And we were perceived by men as being hysterical. And so some doctor, I don't know who thought of this, um, discovered, or is that even what happened? But he figured out, if I take the uterus out, then this whole hormonal business should be dealt with, and the hysteria should be gone. Hysterectomy.
yeah,
Anyway,
how does that
pubes.
apply to the penis? I want to know how that applies to the penis and their erratic
But
behavior.
so how does that apply to the penis? Well, a woman who goes into menopause, generally, if things get a little drier, and And so when you give a woman estrogen,
Mhm.
it juices up,
Stimulates.
it
Yeah.
stimulates the juices.
Yeah.
And so that's what we then, that's what was discovered then. So, okay, so a woman is now menopausal, whatever, let's give her estrogen, and then, keep that all going. But then later on, they're finding out that that's probably not a great idea either, because that's causing all kinds of, you're fucking around with nature too much. Just let it do its thing. Go buy some lube. It's fine.
Exactly.
But pubes.
So so they did shave those, and those are, it's, this is a really interesting conversation. When I was 16, 17 in boarding school, out of nowhere, I started getting facial hair. And it
Right.
wasn't facial hair that anybody could see, but myself. And it was my senior year of boarding school. And we had a main bathroom on the senior wing, and then strangely had one private bathroom at the end of the wing. And I was so self-conscious and by myself. I wasn't at home with my mother. I'm on my own at boarding school, that I would started taking care of myself in the bathroom by itself and removing my hair by shaving. And it was like a self-discovery exploration of like, just how do you function with this? And that summer after I graduated, my mom was really concerned. So she took me to an endocrinologist to make sure I was okay. And they tested my ovaries, ironically.
Okay.
And yeah, because they wanted to make sure, that I was okay. And ended up being determined that I had extra testosterone. Well, hi, no joke, like no surprise,
Right.
meaning no surprise, like not because I'm aggressive
She's
or
got
masculine.
balls. She's got
I got
balls.
balls.
She's got balls.
And so they basically were like, well, look, we can put her on the pill, or we can put her on, ironically, at the time they had discovered this ulcer medication, Tagamet, that had proven to slow the growth of hair, or do nothing.
Facial hair
Facial
in
hair.
women. Okay.
Yeah. And, of course, facial hair for a woman, to even to this day, is like, oh, you should be in the circus.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Just like the hysteria.
Mhm.
So needless to say, it was like, I remember looking at my mom being like, oh, and they checked my ovaries because they wanted to make sure there were no cysts on my ovaries, ironically. And so there weren't, but there was still this facial hair. What are we going to do with that? And I wasn't walking around like some bearded girl. It was just, I could feel it. And so I wanted to remove it. And so I remember that my association with birth control was with my mom, who got migraines from birth control in the 60s. So I didn't want to go on birth control. And I wasn't sexually active. I had lost my virginity already, but I was not sexually active. And so I felt no need to go on birth control. So I started the ulcer medication. Well, I don't think I did that for even a month. I was like, I don't want this fucking shit in my body. Like, I'll just shave. Well, to this day, I personally claim that one of the reasons why my face looks the way it looks is because I've been shaving since I've been 17 years old. And I've been exfoliating my skin since I was 17 years old. That keeps your skin really in great condition. I mean, granted, yeah, I'm sloughing off the epidural layer. And so anyhow, I was always very self-conscious because anybody that I connected with and got intimate with, I was always afraid of who was going to realize that why do I feel a little bit of stubble?
Mm,
Like I'm with a woman, but she's got a little bit of a little stubble there.
mhm.
And it would be kind of the cross to bear, so to speak. And it would always be the determination of who stayed and who didn't, like who was
Right.
either very kind versus who wasn't. And all these years later, cut to now, and with chemo, this got really retarded, meaning just slowed down growth tremendously.
Really?
And yeah, yeah, all the hair on my body, definitely. So it'll be really interesting to see as recovery occurs
Right.
over the next month to 2 months as the hair on my head starts to grow back, where everything else, like, I barely have to shave my armpits. I barely have to shave my legs. Um, my pubic hairs are probably at the same level that roughly give or take since surgery. Not bald, but in the sense of, just not a lot. And I wasn't one who did Brazilians or did anything like that. I believed in being clean and natural, and there's a reason for why women have hair. And I'm a big believer in that. It wasn't like a forest. It was just like, oh, she's a woman. That's right, I am. Hear me roar. And you know, and um, and I was proud of it. You know, and I remember even thinking during the pandemic, well, where are you getting that damn Brazilian and that runway and that, like, whatever done? Because girlfriend, shit's got to grow back. And not to mention, I'm just going to go out on a limb here. Forgive me, but why the fuck would you want to look like a prepubescent woman? You're not even a woman. You
I
look like
do.
a little
I
boy. That's
Yeah,
me. That's just me.
a little boy, a little girl. Yeah,
Oh, I mean
it's
a little girl.
well, it's both because men do it too. It's I don't know. I have no idea, Felicia. Why I don't understand it. I don't.
What's to
But
understand?
why do you want the hairs ripped out of your asshole? I don't know. I mean,
Hello,
who thought
and
of that?
bleached.
Oh, who thought of that? I don't know. I mean, how
Pornography.
that
Pornography did that.
yeah. Guess you have nothing else to do. You have no worries but those. That's your
Yeah,
only worry. I don't know.
yeah.
I envy you? No. I could think of better things to do with my time. But
That
and
is pain free. Like eat a gelato. That would be much more soothing.
I would be much more soothing. Yeah, it would be. But I don't know. It's something that's taken you know, yeah, a great deal of a lot of people are into that look. I don't know. I personally think it's a little sick, but pedophiles,
Yeah. Well, it's
you
it's
know,
really,
I
think
don't
it's
know.
no,
It's
but I
weird.
do think pornography had a lot to do with that. And I think with listen,
Yeah.
I mean, I was raised around Playboy and, nudity and art and all those things all my life. So none of that fazed me. I wasn't some, right wing Christian born kid who, God forbid, can't see it, can't have it, and that's what you want more of.
Mhm.
And then with the rise of the porn, with the business of pornography that's always been around, but became more accessible in the last 10, 20 years. And this mindset that, women aren't supposed to have pubic hair because that world really set a precedent. And so then men of a certain age who are watching that, which is all across the board, of course, thanks. And, the younger, the better, the less legal, blah, blah. I mean, it just is sick. That's an unhealthy mind, but I don't want to go off on that tangent and start to label people. But it is an unhealthy mind when when you're a quote unquote grown individual and you want to be fucking something that doesn't even, hasn't even materialized into an adult hormonal position. That's not
Yeah,
somebody I want to be interacting with.
no, no, no. And now that you're going through what you're going through, you're holding on to all the hair that you have. Like, oh God.
I mean, we know
Where's
why
you're holding on to
we
everything.
we know why they shave the pubic hair during surgery, because it's for the sake of sanitation, for the sake of when they're cutting you from the pubic
Of
bone up
course.
to the navel, they
Yeah.
can't have that while they're sewing you up, because that could
No.
cause a problem. So
Sure.
for those reasons alone,
You're
there's
shaving.
a reason for that.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
But yeah, it will be interesting to see what comes back, and whether being really straight up about the whole facial hair. And I got to that point, when I was first married, not to Randy but to my first husband, two things I learned about a man is that you don't want to be short and you don't want to be bald, because men are really mean with short and bald. Truly mean. They're worse than mean girls.
Short,
And
bald man is mean? Is that what you're saying?
No, other men are mean to short, bald men.
Oh, okay.
They don't value them in the same way.
Okay.
It's like the animal tundra.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't care how much money you make, you're short and bald.
Right.
Yeah. And at the time, we had taken my husband to
Was he short and bald?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Which I made a decision after that I would never marry a short, bald man again.
Right. Uh-huh.
Which sounds very judgy and very like spots, but I just went, no, I want a man with power.
Right. Okay. So in the chain, in our prehistoric brain, whatever, what do we call it? There's something there with short, balding. Okay.
Oh yeah, I mean, why do you think Napoleon was labeled the way he was?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's very much, it is very animalistic. This is why we're so vain. This is why we're so like, oh, if they're not tall enough, if they're not thin enough, if they're not young enough, if they're not whatever, we put people into categories and we
Right.
eliminate. And this is how we,
What's not good for the group. It's not good for the group.
No,
you're not strong, and so we leave you behind.
We leave you behind, exactly. So we were going to somebody who was a hair growth specialist at the time, and this was also in the late 80s, yeah, in Chicago. And I remember my husband asking me to bring up the subject of the facial hair, and maybe this doctor could help. This man was so off-putting. He was so like, in all my years of being in practice, I've met maybe all of 3 women who have this problem. And I looked at him and I was like, 3 women who are willing to speak up because of assholes like you.
Right.
And I went, fuck you and the horse you rode in on.
Yeah.
I turned to my husband and went, I don't care what you do, but I want nothing to do with this asshole.
Yeah.
And I remember then years later being out in LA, and I think I was already divorced, and I think I was with the violent alcoholic, and we were out to lunch in an outdoor venue. And we were out with, I don't remember who we were out with, but at this next table, there were these women who were very, like, they were probably Middle Eastern. And I don't
Mhm.
mean that like in a general statement, but they were from,
Right.
they
Somewhere,
were,
somewhere there.
they had,
Yeah.
they had apparent hair.
Right.
And this person who was sitting across the table from us, who we were dining with, had the most rude comment about the women with the facial hair that I literally grabbed my guy's leg under the table. Like, if he says one more thing, I will not have control over my actions. And
Right.
you do hear this, right? Like, you better like nip this shit in the bud. And I just think that society doesn't realize, like, I've always made the running joke, well, it's your problem if you don't want to be with a woman who has a higher sex drive then.
Yeah.
Your loss, not mine.
You're lost. Not, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And, I I do think it's an interesting kind of full circle in the sense of, when I was 17 and, now to like be going through this because, who's to say what was happening with hormones and things or talcum powder, or I don't know, like we don't know where this stems from because genetically speaking, supposedly I don't have the genetic disposition to thankfully have that, but that there's more to be revealed regarding all that.
Right.
um but yeah,
So,
I
so
just
you're saying the cancer is not hormone, is, we don't know yet. We don't know.
supposedly, I mean, I don't have the BRCA gene, and also I have no cancer in my family, so there's no genetic disposition that like exists in that regards that I'm aware of.
Right.
Not in the classic form of the BRCA gene that they
Right.
get really concerned about. um
Right.
and again, I can't really talk on the specifics of that because I know that there's going to be more to be revealed for the sake of like maintenance and ensuring that this never comes back.
Right.
But getting back to just, I encourage all women to shave. I've
Yeah.
always encouraged women to
I
shave.
I have yeah, me and my tweezers are friends day on a daily basis, and I have my times 10 mirror, and I actually quite enjoy doing it too. It's a daily, it's meditative, I guess.
But I
Uh,
I to the point of, yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off. I encourage women to shave because of having glowing skin.
yeah.
And so their moisturizer and their skincare is of nature that it's actually good for you to
Right.
slough the skin off, and that is the most direct way. Yeah, there's all the other products out there that you can use, but why, when you can just, and now they have all the dermablades and all that, you're fucking shaving, that's what you're doing. They're just calling it something else. They don't
Sure.
want to say you're shaving because, oh my god, psychologically I'm shaving. Well, what do you think you're doing?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
It's just,
dermablading.
I'm dermablading.
I'm
That's like
dermablading.
saying I'm having an affair, but I'm not, like, what? You're shaving.
Right. Second Love. That's a website here in the Netherlands. It's called secondlove.com or .nl. And I thought, when I first heard that, Second Love, I thought, oh, it must be a website for like if you're, divorced or whatever, you've had your first big love and whatever, for whatever reason, that's no longer in place. So you're looking for your second big love. No, we're not. No, second love. That just means I have my shit at home, but I'm looking for, a second love. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm
I-
happily married, or I have a relationship. I'm in a relationship, and but I'm looking for second love. Okay. All right.
Wow. So it's just a really, so basically it's matchmaking for affairs.
Yeah. I'm microblading. Or dermablading.
I'm
I'm-
dermablading and I'm looking for a second form of a
I'm
fuck.
looking for a second fuck. Yeah. So, so I have one more question for you, which
Yeah.
I've had some people in my life diagnosed with cancer, and one thing that they've heard from friends or neighbors or acquaintances, whatever, is this question of so life must be much more uninhibited. Have you been asked that question?
No, but I think that kind of goes back to the fear question.
Yeah, and so I was actually kind of shocked, because it was asked of me too. You know, somebody asked me like, oh, life must be you know, or it wasn't even like, oh, it wasn't even a question, it was just sort of stated like the uninhibited way of life is now gone. And I kind of experienced it as rude. Like, who are you to decide that that's what just happened?
Well, that
So
takes me back to like the power of the word. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it also takes me back to like people saying, oh, that must be so freeing to have your hair off your head. Like,
yeah,
well, who are you to say that that is my experience?
yeah, it's maybe it's just something they've read online, or they've, you know, there's a lot of weird questions out there. You know, I also, I have to say, a lot of people don't know what to say. They're at a loss for words, which I understand too, but I'd much rather than you say, I'm at a loss for words, I don't know what to say. Yeah, period. That's it. But
Or how
yes,
about this? Say nothing, or ask the person, is there anything that you need to or want to share? And I'm just here to listen.
yeah, 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 yeah.
But
I think
going
that's
back to the
great. I
question,
think that's a great, you're, you know, you've experienced it now, and I think that's a great, yeah, what a great ending to the cancer story, because you're done. You're done.
I feel done. I know that, like I said, I know that, you know, there will be maintenance in the sense of for the next couple of years of being watched
Yeah.
over and all that. But the big heaping, getting through the big up and over the mountain has been accomplished. That I do feel. And that in of itself is surreal and so thankful. I'm so thankful. I'm so relieved to be. I mean, I did not know how I would manage through that part.
Yeah.
And
I know that. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I don't know. I'm just so grateful that I had it within me to pull up my own bootstraps and just kind of,
Yeah, go forward.
yeah, because every time the treatment would come up, about 48 hours before, I'd start to get this whole like queasy feeling of, oh God, I gotta get prepared to have that needle put in. Oh God, I'm gonna be hooked up to bags of shit that I,
Yeah.
you know, And oh God, then I'm going to have the post side effects, and I don't know what that's going to be from moment to moment. And every time's going to be different. And every time was different.
Yeah. And these last 2 times have really kicked your booty. They've and this last time even more so. So
Yeah,
maybe it's all body just saying, okay, this is enough now. Enough bad shit has been killed. Everything's good. Let's stop this.
Yeah, I definitely think that my body knows how to eject poison.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. And it started showing that on like round 3, because round 3 is when I first had my first case of nausea to the point of throwing up. And my body immediately released. Once I got that process happen, I released pain in my body, I released nausea in my body, and I could stop taking medicine to manage that. And that was the other thing, is like, I just don't want to have any more medicine in my body that I don't need to have.
No. Are you taking supplements now?
I still don't think I can take yet supplements. Because this is just so recent. I imagine, so I'm giving myself the month to, recover, get my immune system naturally back up, my white blood count. And I'm really lucky because my lab was always good. My count, my cancer numbers were always very low. Like, basically I was told, like, my numbers are like a normal person. I just happen to be the one going through chemo, which, can be a mind fuck in and of itself. But you're like, well, then why are we doing this? But I knew why we were doing this. I had to make a decision to marry my oncologist and partner with him.
Yeah.
Because better now than 2 years from now, I come back and I go, oh shit, this stuff came back, and I refuse.
Yeah, I should have. Oh, I should have done. I should have, could have, would have, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember you were hesitant about taking the chemo when you were told that was, so, and I had done my investigative work, and I knew that you had to, you kind of had no choice. You had to do it.
That's why you do what you do.
Yeah, I already knew, I knew it was in store. I knew, okay, so we're calling it early stage 3. So I read, okay, so up to stage 2, it's contained. And then when we're calling it early stage 3, it's still contained, but we're not sure if 1 or 2 got away. And so we want to make sure we're getting everything with chemo.
Yeah.
So that was the thing.
And that was what was so fortunate about going when they did do the surgery, and they were able to, with their naked eye, literally only see 2 spots, and with the organs take it all out. And that's the only reason why. I mean, this is what they know from science, is that, they can't prove anything. They're not gods. They're students of science.
Yeah.
But based upon statistics, and based upon advancement, and based upon, do you go with this doctor versus that doctor, and this belief versus that belief? I could have gone with experimental versions with other teams, but that's no different than what I said when I went to papillary thyroid cancer. If I had gone and I've been very much a naturalist in the sense of where I'm getting $500 worth of supplements every week. Well, had I listened to those people, I would have had this, growth in my neck turn into what maybe I could never have breathed, or lost my voice, and my vocal cord, shit could have been forever. There's times when things have to be cut out. There's
Yeah.
times when you have to do advanced progressive things and then find the balance, you
Well,
know.
that's beauty. That's the beauty of combining all the knowledge that's available to us.
I agree. I agree. And I want to share that speaking of hysteria, I'll never forget that after that surgery, and very soon after, like I think it was within 2 weeks that I was starting to work out, because I was already walking and I was doing all the things that, I mean, they didn't expect.
Yeah.
And I was with my trainer virtually. And Rachel said to me, "So how do you feel? Do you feel different not having everything inside of you?" And I'm working out as we're talking. I said, "Do I feel different?" And I said, "No." I said, "No, I feel exactly like myself." I said, "I still have my vagina, I still have my asshole, and I still have my personality. So I'm good."
And you've never, I mean, you've never felt your uterus, you've never felt your ovaries. It's not like, oh yeah, there they are. No. So that's so taking out your uterus and both your ovaries
Yeah,
completely, or do they
yeah,
leave? They don't. They take it
no,
all out.
they took it
Okay.
all out. And I
Okay.
never felt different for one moment. I don't do anything different. I don't feel anything different. I don't feel like all of a sudden I'm 20 years older. Like I don't feel nothing different.
Right. Right. So yeah, yeah, I'm not sure how, well, that'll be for me to investigate. I don't know what happens in the body, in the female body, when after a surgery like that, when everything's taken out, which part of us then takes over the production of progesterone and estrogen. I know that our fat cells are able to produce estrogen.
Yeah, that's more of the conversations that
You're
my
gonna have,
oncologist and I, yeah, because I did start to talk to him about, you know, aging, bones,
yeah,
sex, hormones, all those things. These
yeah,
are all very important things to me to stay strong. I had very strong bones because I've had bone density tests several times. They've always been in really great shape. You know, again, sexually speaking, there's never been issues. Regarding aging, you know, that whole team thought I was 20 years younger. I mean, I'm not an anomaly. I'm Felicia. You know, I've been given on both sides of my family pretty great genetics. Pretty great genetics in the sense of they didn't ever look their age. And they weren't people who were shot up and were vain people. They just didn't age. I don't know if it's the olive oil. I don't know what it is. It doesn't really matter. It's just, you know, I mean, my father died young of a heart attack, but a lot of my family has lived into their 90s. You know, so we have a variety of things, and we do have things in our family lineage that, you know, between heart and strokes, diabetes, but I don't have, you know, I don't have that stuff. I've been tested for all that. So that's what's also so interesting about this. You know, having this, and when they say, you know, it can be environmental and it can be age, I don't know that. I mean, listen, environmentally, you can be around enough toxic communities of human beings that you absorb too much of their shit, and it goes into your womb, you know? I mean, because this is our central core area. This is our definition. This is what defines us as women. Am I less of a woman today because I have a hysterectomy? It's really interesting to hear people's responses. I've literally heard gasps. oh my God, you don't have your organs? Yeah, motherfucker, hear me roar. Like, what?
Yeah.
You make
Yeah.
me, why do you think I am now less of a woman? Because I have had a hysterectomy. Did I ever imagine? Never in a million years. Not once. Matter of fact, I remember probably 20 years ago being like, you know, if you can avoid a hysterectomy at all causes because of blah, 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 blah. But the way things have evolved in medicine and the way things have, you know, advanced just overall, and, you know, they'll say it even in medicine, just with cancer alone. Yeah, no, it is not a resolved situation. And unfortunately, women's research and funding is the lowest thing on the spectrum regarding medical advancement, which is even more reason why these conversations are so important to have, because people need to get behind women. People need to get behind the life of the woman that births the life of our humanity. Whether you produce children or not, we are the source, we are the backbone of all things throughout the world. And we are treated like second-class citizens in every aspect of all things, politically, culturally, medically. And yet, if you don't have a woman, you don't have life. And it's just dumbfounding, the mentality and the limited beliefs that are wrapped around the female when it comes to all things. If she doesn't have a string up her ass and she can't be bent over and fucked up in the ass, then she's not worthy, and just procreate so my legacy can be carried on. I'm not talking like rough in the way that's meant to be, again, unbecoming, but that's the way a lot of people think. And no, not all people think, but there's a lot of people who are just so detached. You know, that's why violence is so prevalent, because they're so detached. And that's why violence against women and children is at such a height, because there's so much detachment from so much dysfunction, from so many generational beliefs and environmental exposure. Babies don't come into the world with all of this impact and trauma. They get exposed environmentally to trauma, and then they repeat what they've experienced.
Right.
And that to me is like where this all seeds itself. And I know that sounds very like off in left field, like what does that have to do with what we've been talking about? But it's all, I think, interrelated in the sense of the kind of environments that we're supporting, or, and yet we're so, we're not in touch with reality.
Right. Well, I'm kind of shocked that, because what is that based on? A gasp of you don't have your uterus. I mean, what is that? What is that? What is the gasp based on? What?
I'm sorry, when a man gets
Yeah.
clipped, so they can't get a woman pregnant, do people gasp?
No, I do, but no. No. You did? How?
I mean, it's so very culturally different.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I remember when, you know, and I'm not gonna say,
it's still a very, very long way. And I'm shocked to hear young women still being extremely submissive to, oh, let me ask my husband. I'm sorry, you're from what fucking century did you just walk in? And let me ask my husband. Ask him what? Or, oh, let him, I'll have him decide. These are young women, 20, 30-year-old. It's just shocking to me how that just will not it just does not change.
No. And our
It's
world
just
is,
being from our generation has been given because I could have had a child. I could have been a grandmother by now, and I could have been if I'm almost 60. So what if I was 20 and I had a baby? That baby could have, what if that baby was 20 when he or she procreated? I could have been a grandmother of a 20-year-old, and they're walking around women saying, let me ask my husband. Okay.
we also both know, being when we were raised, and even though we were raised in different countries, we both know politically, culturally, all the things, we see how things are going backwards for women versus forward around the world. And this is why when I say to women, we are second-class citizens, that's not a statement I love making. That's a true statement.
It's something to think about. It's something to think about and not just dismiss as, oh, you're being ridiculous. No, it's something to really ponder over and test in your own life. How does that really affect me? Is that really the case? Or am I just ignoring it and stepping over it and just burying it in the background? Like, man, no, that's not happening to me. Or it's too much hassle to fight against. I know it's too much hassle to fight against, but fuck.
Yeah, it is a lot. And it is a lot to bear, and it is a lot to think about. And there's no question. Just because I make that statement doesn't mean, like, here's Norma Ray and I'm going to take on, every situation. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just planting seeds to wake people up. I'm planting seeds to make people think. I'm planting seeds to connect the dots and to wonder, why are there so few heads of companies that are women that can safely lead and not be, pulled down like crabs? And why is it that women can't safely, truthfully raise each other up without the mean girls and the backstabbing and insecure and the fear, and even including, whether it's men or women doing that onto the woman? Why isn't it that women can, I understand that there's been female leaders around the world, and other countries have shown that better than the US in that regard. But why is it that, why is it that women can't support women making decisions for themselves over their own bodies?
Yeah. Why is it? Good question. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
don't have the answer, but keep planting seeds and keep on keeping on, and I will do the same. I will do my part, and we'll just keep trying. And
we'll keep having conversations. I know it's late there, baby.
We'll keep having conversations. I have to say that I do notice that in the medical profession here in the Netherlands, I don't know how it is anywhere else in the world, but I do see that happening in the Netherlands, is that there's more women becoming doctors than ever before. So that's it's a good thing.
It is a good thing, because when I was pre-med, there were very few women, and there were very few women given the space to do that. No different than female directors in the film industry still to today. And, it's important to have representation, but it's important to, just because you're a woman does not make, and when you become a doctor does not make you altruistic. It does not make that person like, oh, great, they're a woman and they're a doctor. They've got to be a good person. They've got to have great bedside manner as well as intellect. So it's not just, oh, great, you got the female parts, so therefore that makes you great. No, it's a package. It's an all-inclusive situation. It's not just, oh, great, we're welcoming in more women. The fact of the matter is the medical world in general has always been, across the board, no matter where you've been in the world, a white male-led situation. You know this from your own family. You know, it's always been that. The woman was the nurse or the secretary.
Sure. But it's, you know, it's in the film business too. The makeup artist and the wardrobe is mostly female, and if it's male, it's mostly gay.
Correct. And even though in Hollywood, it started out that the makeup artists were only allowed to be men and the women were hairdressers.
Yeah, and clothes, you know, the people making clothing were men.
Correct. Tailors.
Thank you. I was looking for that word.
Yeah.
It is getting late here. A what? Yeah, a tailor.
Yeah.
Tailors were men. But that shifted into a woman's position in the household. You're and it's a really hard, somehow it's just really hard to move out of that
mindset.
Out of that mindset of the, you know, it's almost like the 50s are back somehow. It's just like regressing back into the 50s. Like, okay, you vacuum, you iron, you do the dishes. Here is more household equipment. You can now also do this, and here's this for the window. It's still in advertisement. When, you know, a commercial is made and it's a product to clean something in the house, most of the time it's a woman holding the vacuum cleaner, cleaning the windows, doing look how easy this is. It's just something that is, it just repeats itself. And it's just being taken for normal. Like it's normal that that's still happening, and you're probably being difficult if you say something about it. You're being a feminist. Well, being a feminist means that whole world, that word has been taken out of proportion. Nobody even knows anymore what feminism means.
No, you know what I refer to feminism? Because even though I personally think our generation is the last generation that understood what people before us fought for. And we were raised around generations that, you know, survived World War II and the Depressions and all those things, and fought for what we were able to achieve as young women between education, ownership to our names, bank accounts, ownership of homes, having careers, being able to have it all. I don't call feminism. I never have. And I was raised in a household of a woman that fought for civil rights, women's rights, voting rights, interracial rights, all those things. I call it, and I call myself, what I refer to as a modern traditionalist.
Yeah. All right. I like it. A modern traditionalist. I like it. Yeah. And you could be a feminist too.
Oh,
you
yeah.
Can be, you know, you can be any, I mean, whatever word, it's words, and whatever word we choose, you know, for ourselves is fine. It's just the wake up to the, and I'm not talking about woke, because that's just a whole other like craziness. But just stand up for for a future generation so that they can experience freedom, even, you know, even for men, because they're caught in this whole, they're caught in the exact same mindset prison that women are. It's just both equally are caught in yeah, I don't know.
Well, we're all in this together.
We're all
None
in
of it, we're not separate. And,
No.
and never should we think otherwise. And the
Right.
more we realize our need to you know, one hand washes the other,
Yeah.
and that we have to treat others as we want to be treated. It's a collective experience. It's a collective consciousness. It's not I get mine and you figure out yours. No, it's not
No.
that. I'm not talking communism and socialism. I'm talking a healthy way of living that everybody matters. It's not your color, your skin, or your age, or your economic well-being, or your education, or your culture. I'm talking, you're a human being.
Right. Yeah.
We're all made of the same thing. We're all coming in the same way, and we're all going out the same way. I understand that there are levels of striving and being driven and thriving and wanting for better. And so I'm not saying don't rise to the occasion and be your own individual self. I'm saying that if you want to be heard, seen, and well cared for, then you should believe that everybody has the right for that.
Right on. Right on.
I love you.
I love you. Thank you. Did you feel okay about our conversation?
I felt completely okay with our conversation. And more importantly, do you feel like your answers were your questions were answered?
I mean, I didn't know what I was going to ask you either. I just, I think this fear is, it's kind of an important word, because I think, not only your own fear, but I think people will put fear on you, their own fear. They'll transfer, it on you. And how do you deal with all that and while going through what you're going through? So yeah, I think that word, I don't know, did we, are we ever finished talking? I don't think so, but I think we, it was good to hear you retell your story. And I think it would be nice for others to hear, what you went through in these last couple of months and in the weeks leading up to, finding out what was happening and what happened prior to that. I mean, you told your whole story, and I think that's important for others to hear. And because that you show yourself as like, I'm here to inspire everybody, and I'm here to, do all this, but like, what really happened? What happened that made you all of a sudden, show up every day on Facebook and doing the things that you're doing, and what happened? So this is what happened.
Yeah. And regarding projection and fear, which we did talk about, like how we get that put upon us, as you just mentioned, that to me is projection. That's like psychology projection 101. And those are the tools and the lessons we need to learn to not take on and to not allow, and the boundaries we need to set. And I certainly know going forward, who's to say who I'm going to engage with going forward, who's like, oh, Felicia, da, 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 but
Yeah, time out. Yeah,
that's your shit, not mine.
It's like the uninhibited question, you know, all the uninhibited, the uninhibition has been taken out of your life. You know, it's you're transferring your fear on me. Stop doing that. Don't. This is not happening to you. You have no fucking idea what just happened to me. So get the fuck away from me. And if you don't know what to say, then say, like you said, say nothing, or you know, ask if there's anything you'd like to share, and go about your business.
Yeah. Amen, sister.
Yeah. Amen. So that was, yeah, so fear, you know, it's a big one. And it's just, it's a daily occurrence, you know, whatever story you have to tell or decide to share with somebody, whatever it's about, you know, there's multiple times people will respond with their own fear. You know, you never asked for anything. You're just sharing a story, and they'll give their opinion, and it's, you know, it's a lot of times it's based on their own fear of that potential situation that they've never been in and probably never will be in. But, you know, they've read that it could be really dangerous and scary, and, you know, it could be a trip to the grocery store or whatever. They just read that, you know, you could be robbed in the parking lot. So when you go to the grocery store, you better be really careful because blah, 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 blah. And so, you know, on and on and on, the transference of fear.
And to your point, the truth of the matter is everybody's walking around scared for one reason or another. And, you know, had I known that as a young woman or as a young kid, I would have been, oh shit. Oh, so going out for an audition is scary and everybody's scared doing it. Oh, they feel the way I do. Oh, well then, okay, I can do this. But I didn't know. And that is also the reason why I think being a leader, a teacher, a person who's willing to put that out on the table so everybody is on an equal level of opportunity and possibility, and that we can eliminate that, that's how we do it.
Yeah. Well, when we keep talking about various subjects, and, you know, like, what do you do when you cough and you pee when you're 82? Fuck, and your girlfriends have been doing it for years, and they've been walking around with pads and nobody ever told her. Damn it.
The secrets, it's all about secrets, and we have to stop keeping secrets.
Keeping up appearances, I think, you know, it also has to do with, that's a totally subconscious thing that happens in our brains, is our what do we call our prehistoric brain, you know, there's a word for it, let me ask Google. I can't.
Before we became human, was it ape to human stage? What do you mean?
Yeah, it was prehistoric. Okay, here it is. No, not our overbrain. No. Anyway, it's our brain. Yeah, maybe before we were living in cages and we couldn't even speak. We were just like, doing.
Well, we were apes. We were apes. We were in the gorilla.
And you know what we're talking about, like, it's not good for the group. So, you know, I'm gonna leave you behind. And I think that has to do with, oh, I can't tell can't talk about my peeing my pants because that makes me weak.
Right,
And when I'm weak, I'm left behind.
right. Oh,
So we don't
trust
talk
me. I do not doubt by my going public, and I didn't mean to cut you off. I do not doubt by going public that there are people potentially who have made that assessment. Well, guess what? Not my tribe, because that is the farthest thing from the truth of who
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
And the likelihood is those that, again, projection psychology are actually the weaker person, because those that accuse others of something that they're not tend to be, the accuser tends to be the violator of of that reality, tends to be the person who's the one walking around doing those things or having those realities, but are not capable of actually having the ability to say, that's me.
Taking responsibility for your actions. Yeah.
Mhm,
Taking responsibility for who you are.
mhm.
Being able to stand on your own two legs without having to hide behind your projections.
Mhm.
I think that's the ultimate goal in life, being able to pull up your own pants, stop hiding behind your projections, and just own up. I'm an idiot. What
Well,
can I do?
you don't have to be an idiot, right? You
No,
can
you don't
just
have to,
be, you
but
can just be honest.
just be honest.
Be
Yeah,
honest.
just be honest.
And
Just be honest.
we're living in a world that honesty is really like, why is honesty the thing that is such a like, we don't expect people to be honest. We
Well,
expect people.
there's so many rules. You have to shave your pubes into a thin strip. You have to have certain eyebrows. You have to have you can't have wrinkles. You can't have gray hair. You can't do this. You can't do that. And those are physical rules. And then there's all these other rules in life where you have to adhere to. So there's no more room for the truth, because it's just hard enough to follow all these rules, to follow along, and wanting to maybe belong to a group.
Yeah. Or we look at a man who, there's very famous men throughout history who have this look and are relegated into stardom and leadership and honor. But as a woman, if you don't have long, flowing, fuckable hair,
You're screwed.
I don't feel screwed. I feel like, in that way, I feel empowered. I do feel like I have found a form of a power that I didn't know I had.
Okay.
And though I don't want to stay in this position,
because you can't hide behind your hair, your mane, so you had to like peel off another layer and come from behind the curtain and go, okay, here I am.
yeah, this is me. I'm enough.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Cool. All right. So that was a significant change, right?
Yeah, I look forward to having long, beautiful hair again.
Yeah, but this was, I not to start talking about myself, but I did it all kind of like one after the other. I stopped smoking and I stopped dyeing my hair.
Mhm.
And those were, and it was kind of like, I don't know, within a year. And when I stopped dyeing my hair, I wasn't gonna let my hair grow out, which is now a fashionable thing to do. But I just didn't think that was my thing, my way to go about it. So I shaved off all my hair, or I had like a quarter of an inch left, and I had no cigarette. So who was I? I had no hair and I had no cigarette.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I wrote this morning, and I'm going to refer to what I wrote, that my acts don't define me. They
Right,
refine me. They refine me.
right.
So your acts, that doesn't define you, the
It didn't,
smoking.
but it was, and I didn't know it at the time. And I loved smoking. I loved every cigarette. I loved every inhalation. I loved it.
Mhm.
And I loved having my long hair. And I didn't really realize it that until that was gone. Like I had to do something else with my hands, with my body, with my head, I just had to be a different person. And there was just more of me that I could give to the outside world, instead of hiding behind my hair and doing this thing that
Yeah.
blowing out smoke, inhaling and blowing out smoke, and leaving a room to go outside to have a cigarette, and yeah, all these things.
Yeah. It's kind of like hiding behind weight.
Hiding behind weight. Yeah. Yeah. It's all so it's these, it's peeling off these layers of and owning up to who you really truly are, taking responsibility for who you really truly are. And isn't that like the ultimate way to live your life and get to the end of this life and be able to die with your eyes wide open and go, I fucking gave it my all.
Gave it
I
my
did.
all, and what are
Yeah.
your truth and your purpose. And
Yeah.
that you didn't align, you aligned with that versus had it dimmed or fought against it or caused yourself not to be who you were here to be, like the little girl that got excited about certain things and you dim that because you needed to fit that square peg into that round hole. And then
Yeah.
one day you woke up and went, who am I?
Yeah.
The reason why you and I flow in conversation so beautifully is we give each other the space to allow ourselves to be ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the best gift you can give anybody.
Yeah. And that's why I always say we are each other's greatest bank accounts by exchange, by doing just this.
Right. Right. I love you.
I love you so much. I love that Marie was so inquisitive about talking about fear and how fascinating and how authentic I was, truly wanting to show up being. What's really interesting and excited to share that it caused a cracking open of a door that turned into revealing the fear that I didn't even know I was going to experience post this interview, and the conversation that spawned from there. So I look forward to you joining us for part 3 of this conversation that we'll post in a couple weeks. And in the meantime, join, subscribe, share the Camp Fifi Uncensored podcast, where we talk about everything from soup to nuts, or what we like to say, from Cannolis taking the holes, and don't forget the s'mores. And where the spirit is young, the soul is wise, and the life stories are vast. Join us next week. Much love. Bye for now.